look, you could potentially find someone to settle down with. But the thing I kind of really tussled with was whether or not I should be, driven by fear and kind of timelines and kind of just run out and, just settle with whoever for the sake of being like, okay, cool, I've kind of ticked this box. Or if I should try and, honour myself and actually work on myself during that time and then trust that at some point I'll actually meet the right person.
Reminder, you did not come here to play someone else's game, to box yourself in, or to let fear guide your choices. You came here to experience joy and abundance and to love the shit out of your life. The Trajectory podcast is here to remind you of a few important truths. 1, you are the creator of your reality. 2, anything that you can dream or imagine, you can create. 3, following passion is the quickest way to align you with your true path. 4, your reality is always a reflection of your current thoughts and beliefs, and those thoughts and beliefs can be changed at any time. You are amazing, and it's time to own who you really are. Tune in weekly to be reminded that you can create the life that you're dreaming of and to learn exactly how to do it. Get inspired by those who have been bold enough to follow their passions and have created their dream life because of it. If you're ready to stop playing small, stop holding yourself back, and start aligning with your trajectory, let's do it.
So, Suzie, sorry I'm puffed.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We haven't seen each other, except for a couple of weeks ago when we finally met up. What was the gap? 20 years or something, I think?
20 years?
I'm bad at maths, but like we were
class of
17.
2000.
You do the maths.
We were class of 2005 in year 12, so 2003
Year 10.
in year 10.
But you went to Tuggers.
I went to Tuggeranong.
So one more year because I left halfway through that year.
Okay,
so
yeah, one more year.
17.
17.
2004.
16, 17.
To 24. 2004 to 2024.
Wow, okay, yeah, 20 years. Oh my God.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a long
And
time.
I love that we met up and we just chatted for like 3 hours till the whole shop
3
just
hours.
closed down and we sort of got kicked out. We're like, oh yeah,
The shop
that's right.
closed around us. It closed around us.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 20 years.
20 years. So that's the thing. I love having you here because I want to talk about how much has changed in life in 20 years because we, correct me if I'm wrong, we were like the last generation to grow up without internet.
Pretty
right? Like when
much.
we were younger.
Yeah, I think it's universally accepted that millennials were...
What are we? Wait, are we millennials?
We're
I
millennials.
get confused. What does that...
We're
What is
millennials.
the parameters?
Millennials were born between like 1980 and 1994,
Okay.
3, 4, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're millennials.
Wow, that's hilarious because I've always been like talking about millennials like they're
No,
another...
we're millennials.
I'm like those millennials
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah, we're mid-millennials. I think like 1982 actually. Yeah, 81, 82. So we're like right in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I
So-
mean, I was trying to think of things that just don't exist anymore that we used
Right.
to do, like, getting mail or
Getting
like
mail,
developing photos from your little clicky cameras.
developing
Do you remember
photo.
them?
Yeah,
Like the
I remember
disposable
those.
cameras.
We take them to camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had dial-up internet, so we didn't kind of not have internet at all, but we had dial-up internet, so you had to ask to go on the internet.
And it would scream at you.
It'd scream at you because when you went on the internet, we couldn't receive phone calls if the dial-up internet was plugged in because you had to pull out the phone line to plug it in.
It was a choice.
Yeah, and your mum would always be like, "Get off the internet!" Anyway,
Yes.
so get off the internet.
my
So,
gosh.
and then also, do you remember the Optus like free 20 minutes calls after 9 o'clock
Oh my God.
on
your
the prepaid phone?
like a SIM.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a 3210.
Yeah, so if you didn't have credit, Optus used to do this thing where after 9 o'clock you can make calls. Oh, maybe it was half an hour. It's 20 minutes or half an hour that you make calls for free. And so we'd be on the phone, like in high school, I'd call like a friend. After 9, because we never had credit.
Yeah.
And you talk on the phone till like 29 minutes and then you
Yeah.
hang up and then call back. So we did stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
a different life, hey?
Yeah.
But the other thing I'm finding, and we're in similar boats right now, we're both starting to follow what we're really passionate about. And we're both starting our own sort of businesses in different ways.
Yeah.
But something that wasn't so prominent was, you know, obviously when we didn't have internet, we weren't having to self-promote all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
So going from this mentality, and I don't know about you, tell me your experience, but I feel like in the past it was much more like, be humble, be modest, don't talk about yourself, you know. And if you are going to, go and hire a marketing team to talk about you so you look like the authority.
Right.
Now, it's like, and I get it, it makes sense because there's so many people doing it. You need to do your own work when you're starting out.
Right.
But the constant, you do need to sell yourself in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have days where I'm okay with that and days where I really struggle with that. And days where I'm like, I don't want to see my own face again today.
Right. Yeah,
like,
that's right.
How do you deal with that?
I'm really struggling with that part, like with learning how to sell myself, learning how to sell in general. But I think, not only did we not kind of focus on selling ourselves, we also, I think even the step before that was that like we weren't really thinking about selling at all because we were thinking about like a very narrow trajectory of life in which you didn't need to sell, you know, we kind of
get a job.
We grew up in a time where you went to school, you maybe went to uni or went and got a trade, and then you just worked for the rest of your life. You got married at some point, you bought a house, got a couple dogs, had kids, and that was it. So it wasn't in the lexicon, you know, it was only kind of the odd person here and there that had a parent that maybe ran a business or something like that. But where we grew up, that wasn't really the norm.
No.
The norm was like a 9 to 5 and kind of a white picket fence, and that was kind of just accepted as to what you'll do. So it's that as kind of the base, and then also now being in a really different world where I think working for yourself is a lot more desirable and viable, but because of the internet and social media and the way that we connect now, that selling and being able to kind of promote yourself is critical. So it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're coming from, you know, that really square existence and kind of trying to make a transition. It's tough.
Makes me feel a bit better though sometimes, like just hearing that, because I mean you're so spot on. It wasn't even, I didn't know really anyone who had a parent who owned a business or anything like that, and I didn't know anyone who was actively following their dreams, and I was so desperate to follow all my passions. But you know, I wanted to do music, I wanted to do acting and dancing and all these things that were told to me very clearly in so many ways from so many people. That's not viable. That's not a way you're going to make money. So do that on the side, but don't focus on that. And now everything has completely changed. And I truly believe that the more you follow the thing you're passionate about, whatever that thing is, don't worry about what the world is showing you. It could be the most obscure random thing. Like, I mean, I interviewed a death doula last week who helps people go through dying. I'm like, that's her passion. That's something that she loves to do. So when you actually follow your passion these days, abundance is a byproduct of that. You actually 100%. Can end up making a really viable career out of that, because the sky's the limit and we have connectivity around the world and everything like that. But coming from this place of, everyone in my family went straight for the 9 to 5. So did I. I did that for 7 years, and I did that in the government, which is where I just wasn't happy for a while, which is what made me go, you know what, I may as well just take a chance right now. And I feel like you're doing the same thing, where you sort of started stepping in towards PT, right? So what happened there? Like, what was that transition where you went, nah, I'm going for this thing that I love? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I went along the cookie cutter trajectory, as I call it. You know, finished year 12, took a year off, went to uni, did a 4-year degree, went and got, you know, a job. And I had really good mentorships. I've had a really good professional experience for sure. But I think I knew kind of in my mid-20s that there was more that I wanted to do. Couldn't quite put my finger on it. Knew at that time though, actually I knew very early on that I wanted to live overseas at some point, and my family kind of thought, right, this is just another like harebrained scheme that Susie's come up with, because I always come up with, you know, something. And so, but I made it happen. So going overseas at like 26, 27, and I went over so I went to Toronto in Canada.
Nice.
With probably 3 or 4 years like solid work experience behind me, and a nice high level work experience here, and went over and was able to like get into my professional field, which was great. But it was when I was living overseas when the penny kind of really finally well and truly dropped. So I was probably in my late 20s by then, 28, 29. But I met and saw a lot of my peers, so like people who were my age, who were working for themselves, who were
loving what they do.
Loving what they do.
What's
who were
that?
following their passions. Like a lot of them were artists, and I think artists is it's a general term for a whole range of different skill sets. So, you know, painters, dancers, singers, people who make jewelry, people who run acting schools, actresses, actors. And, you know, they grew up in an environment where when they finished school, they never contemplated the cookie cutter path. Like they never contemplated going to university and then going to work for someone else for the next 30 or 40 years. Like it wasn't in their purview at all. What was in their purview was going off and trying to build a career around something that they love and just sticking at it until they made it work. So that really got me thinking about, well, what am I actually doing? I mean, I'm good at what I do, but to what extent do I actually feel like nourished by what I'm doing? And, you know, that took a few years to kind of go through that journey, because as the years are going by, my income is going up as well. And,
and then it makes it harder, which is why I love and I admire what you're doing, because a lot of people could look at you and go, you're sorted. Like, why don't you stay there? And why don't you just get permanency and just like keep rising and keep making more money? But you're going for passion. More than the money, which I love. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the base. And then, you know, maybe we're going to, you know, touch and talk about the pandemic, but the pandemic was really when things kind of tripped over in a big way, where I think me and a lot of other people kind of went, hold on a second, what are we really doing here? Like, what are we doing? Am I getting up every day and doing something that I actually love? Can I, if I want to say, you know, I'm taking a week off and I'm going to Bali for 7 days, can I do that? No, I can't. You know, what does freedom actually look like in my world? And so, during the pandemic was when I kind of pulled the trigger and said, okay, I'm starting this kind of journey.
So were you always quite healthy and fit? Because you're a personal trainer now. Is that what you studied?
Yeah.
So were you always sort of working out, and that was always something that lit you up, or was it kind of something that started happening more during COVID?
Definitely ratcheted up during COVID, but you know, I grew up in a family where I'd say we're all very sporting inclined.
Well, you were always sporty back in the day.
So, you know, from a young age, in the family I grew up in, we all did some kind of sports. Like we all had to do something. From 5 or 6 I was doing athletics. I played hockey at a high level for a long time, till I was 18, and then when I moved away from home I started training at the gym, because it was, you know, you can do that when you have time to do it, or you don't have to fit into like a team sport, training twice a week and all of that. So I started training at the gym, and then have done boxing on and off for probably 10 years, because that's also, you can, you know, turn up to classes and stuff. So the fitness has been like a consistent theme, but it's always just been something I've done alone, I guess, as an adult. I go to the gym, I come back and I kind of get on with my day to day. It's not been something I've really thought could potentially be like a gift to share with people. But it was during the pandemic. So I was living in Sydney at the time, and beautiful part of Sydney as well. Were you able
to see any of that beautiful part during that time?
I was.
Really?
I mean, I was in the eastern suburbs, so I mean that's a whole other conversation. But how, you know, the eastern suburbs was policed compared to other parts of Sydney.
Milder?
Oh, it was super mild.
Oh.
I mean, super mild. So down at Rushcutters Bay Park, I mean, it was actually quite incredible when you think about it. But down at Rushcutters Bay Park, there were squat racks, there were benches people brought down. People brought down weights from the gyms that they worked at. I mean, it turned into a big outdoor gym.
Public gym. That's amazing.
Big outdoor gym. So, and yeah, it was during that time, I was training a lot. I was training a lot down at the park, and I had a couple people come up to me over the months, because it was a long time of lockdown, and asked me like, "Oh, are you a trainer?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And I mean, around this time, I'd been racking my brains for like a good 2 years around like, okay, well, what am I going to pivot into? Like, what am I going to
And it's always right there, right? It's always staring you in the face when you actually finally figure it out. It's like, oh yeah, I've been doing that, or I've been loving that my whole life, but I hadn't actually believed that I could make that a career. So
and that's what it was, you know. I had kind of been, I was like, should I do consulting, or should I do this and do that? And then, the penny just dropped one day. I'm like,
the penny during the panny.
Yeah, it should be in fitness. Like, what the hell? Like, it should be.
Yeah, totally.
What have I kind of been? I've been overthinking it. I've been overthinking it.
Oh yeah, we're so good at that, hey. But I was thinking as well this morning about back when we were younger, people who went to the gym. That was like for athletes only. That was like for high level athletes. It wasn't like a normal, regular thing that people did all the time. And every now and then you would hear of, you know, someone's mum's going to the gym and they'd last like 3 weeks and then they'd be off it again. You know what I mean? But now it's like, it's a part of life. Like so people like you are so important to remind us, because we still do have those, you know, human days where we're like, do I really need to go? But when you've got someone like yourself that's motivating you, it's like, I know that my head is so much clearer when I work out. It's like all of the energy that I wake up in the morning with, if I don't distribute that with some physical exertion throughout the day, it's all going to stay up here, and it's going to get louder and more confusing. And I had a perfect example of that yesterday. I was meant to go to the gym at lunch, but instead I got held up with work. I chose to just keep working on this edit rather than making that time. And by the end of the day, I was like back into these old patterns of thought that they just don't happen when I work out. Right. So how do you feel when you work out? Like, what is it that you love about working out?
I mean, all of that. I think the mental health benefits of working out almost supersede the physical benefits of working out. And I think when you've been doing it for a long time, you come to take that kind of mental clarity for granted, but it's very much related to that. You know, moving your body. I mean, I like to lift weights, and I'm a big promoter of women lifting weights.
I want to learn more about that. Yeah, we'll come back to that.
We will. So, and so that is, you know, that challenge in and of itself it's a big stress relief. You feel, you know, nice and calm. You feel, you know, accomplished when you leave the gym, and it just makes me feel good. You know, I sleep better.
Yes.
I have a healthy appetite. You know, after consistent training, and it impacts every area of your life, and that kind of keeps me going. I feel like a bit of a robot these days sometimes, because it's just something I do now, you know, but you're right about making space and making time to do it. And I think that's kind of the biggest challenge, getting people on board, is kind of really making it clear and people understanding that, like, this is a choice that you have to make for yourself. This is the one of the absolute forms of self-care for you.
Yes,
I mean, this is self-care.
True. And I've noticed as well lately, because I haven't ever been this consistent as I have been for the last year at going to the gym. But what I find is when I have a week, like just a couple of weeks ago, I had 1 week where I was quite unwell. So I was on the couch most of the week. And then the week after that, I was traveling a lot interstate for work. So I had almost, I think it was just over 2 weeks of not going to the gym at all, after usually going 4, 5, 6 times a week. And I feel like I'm back at square one. So that is something. So I love that you're saying, you know, the mental benefits almost supersede the physical. Because if you are just focusing on the physical, it's very easy to lose your gains in a short amount of time and then go, well, if I'm doing this all for the numbers on the scales that I'm aiming towards, or whatever it might be, or to fit into this dress or whatever, you can get really disheartened, right? Like it's incredible, but it's also, it's kind of empowering as well, because you get that opportunity to show yourself what you can really do. It's like, well, I know I can get back here. It's all good. But I just feel like I'm starting all over again.
And you just go that one day and then go again. 2 days later, and then go again 2 days later, and just keep going.
So I like that. Do you think a 2-day break, 1 day break in between, 1 day on, 1 day off, is that important?
I think it depends how much you train, how many days you're training, I should say. So, I mean, like I train a 4-day week, so I'll do 2 days, a day off, and 2 days on, and then try and have the weekend off.
Nice.
If you're training 3 days, I'd probably do maybe 2 together and have a day off and then that other one. So kind of bring them in so that you can kind of keep a bit of training intensity a lot through the week.
Yeah.
And then just rest the rest of the week.
Yeah, because it is so important, hey?
Yeah.
Like the rest time is
huge.
I think that's underestimated. So tell me, what is it about lifting weights? Because this is coming up a lot more on my social feeds and from a lot of people that are really pushing for that. They're going, it's about lifting. So tell me what it is.
Yeah, specifically for women as well. I mean, I'm 36, so I'm well kind of in, I think 36 is technically still mid-30s.
Yeah. I was saying that until last week when I turned 37. Yeah. I was like, now I'm sort of in that.
It's mid-late. It's like mid-late.
Yeah.
Mid-late, like whatever. It's semantics. It's semantics. Yeah. But certainly for women and men, but I'm kind of focusing more on women lifting weights. Look, after 30, we start to lose muscle. It's a natural part of aging, muscle and bone density. Really tiny amounts to start, so about 1% per year. So it's kind of a negligible amount. But after 10 years, when you get to 40, that's 10%. And then it starts to pick up a little more after 40. So there's a couple of reasons, well, there's a few. For women, preparing ourselves for perimenopause and menopause, which we're all going to go through, whether you're a 5, 7, 12, 25-year-old woman, menopause will, it's coming for you eventually if you're blessed enough to live through that stage of life. And so what happens to us physically at that time is that our estrogen, all of our sex hormones start to decline. Obviously, we stop getting our period. All of the sex hormones that allowed that process to take place for freaking 30 years or whatever. It's insane how long we actually have our periods for. That's a whole other conversation. But all those hormones start to decline, and all those hormones are really important to maintaining muscle and maintaining bone density. So women have unique challenges because not only are we faced with muscle loss and loss of bone density naturally, both women and men, for women, once our sex hormones start to decline in menopause, that process is accelerated. So, if men and women are here, women just take a nosedive and we start kind of heading down quite dramatically around menopause. So, say all that to be said that lifting weights is really the antidote. It's the antidote to muscle loss and loss of bone density. So it's kind of, fairly straightforward at the high level, where if you're lifting weights and you're putting stress on your bones, it forces them to harden, essentially. And then, you need to, with muscle, it's use it or lose it. If you're not using it, if you're not putting it into a stress state, it will be in the decline. So it's one or the other. It's one or the other. So there's big physiological benefits. I think the other point as well to kind of add in that menopausal kind of time, perimenopausal time, that decline in sex hormones also can spur on like quite a bit of weight gain for women in their 40s. And
oh, great.
Yeah, so lots to look forward to. But I've seen it at gyms that I've worked at. I've seen women come in their mid-40s and they're like, I don't know who I am anymore, and part of it is, it's what they're going through physiologically, but part of it's also that they've been divorced from this type of self-care. So, you have to think about what kind of quality of life you actually want. Not so much regarding kind of weight gain, but regarding like, do I want to, struggle to get off the couch? Do I want to be able to, run around with kids and whatnot? Do I want to be active, or do I want to be sedentary? Like what do I want my future to actually look like? So it's really important. It's I'm glad that the conversation is kind of much more live now around the need to lift weights.
And I love that you're sort of targeting your focus on 35 plus women. That's like such a beautiful group of people who clearly, we need help.
We need help.
It's like, help us out.
We need help. Yeah, 100%.
Need to know the facts, honestly. I'm learning a lot from your socials.
Oh,
so
cool.
the self-promotion is going really well.
Oh, nice.
So it's hard at start, but when you start hearing people go, I didn't know that, thank you. It's like, this is worth it. It's
Right.
all right.
100%.
It's not so bad.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far and getting a lot of value out of it. I'd love to ask you to take just a couple of seconds to rate and subscribe to this channel. Once you do that, take a screenshot, let me see that subscribe button hit and the rating, DM that to me on Instagram at Trujectory, one word, and I have a gift for you. I'm going to send you a link that's going to lead you to some digital artwork. These are pieces that are all original photography. I've gone out in nature and taken some beautiful shots. I've got some quotes over the top. I've got some affirmations. And these are pieces that you can blow up to any size that you wish and hang them around your home or your office. And they're going to keep you in a positive mental headspace at all times. Whenever you look at them, they're really calming, beautiful pieces. So thank you so much in advance for rating and subscribing. I really appreciate your support. It's going to help us get these messages out to a larger audience. And I want this space to be somewhere that you can come every single week to be supported, to be motivated, to be inspired, to be reminded that you can create the life that you choose. And all of the beautiful guests that I have on every week are examples of just that. So thank you in advance. I've got so much love for you. Stay true, and I'll see you soon.
So, okay, because we have this rare opportunity to talk about what else has changed in the lives since us little teenage versions of ourselves. When we met up recently, we were sort of talking about, you know, the people that we used to hang out with, and pretty much everyone is married and has kids. Some of them are sort of following passions, but in the majority, they've mostly got like 9-to-5s and stuff like that. You and I seem to be the odd thumbs. So tell me about life for you and how it is being that one who's not necessarily married or having kids, because that's definitely my experience. I'm usually the only one in the room when we go to dinner parties and stuff, and everyone's talking about their kids, and I'm just like,
yeah, you're like,
hey guys, I have cats.
Yeah, like,
but I'm not going to be that guy that's like, my
I
cats
didn't even
are
have
my
pets.
babies.
Yeah, I didn't even have pets. So I just am like, cool.
We'll wait for the topic to change.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a really good conversation. It was a really important conversation because I think, we kind of talked about like your 20s, and I think all of the personal changes that happen in your 20s, or the personal growth, I should say, that happens towards the late 20s. But I think once you turn 30, that it actually becomes a different ball game. And so...
Yeah, well, a lot of people have a lot more to say, I feel.
Yeah, they do.
When are you doing this?
Yeah, they do.
When are you getting this?
They do.
It's like...
So, I mean, a few things happen. Like, I think for me, about 30 to 32 was like really cementing in who I am as a person. And so really knowing like who I am, what I want, what I'll stand for, what I won't, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it's also a time when people are coupling, people are settling down. I mean, I've had friends that have had kids from, you know, their early 20s. And as every year goes by in your 30s, I mean, I turned 36 this year, but as every year goes by, it becomes a little harder to actually fit in if you're not hitting those checkpoints. Checkpoints. So, look, I've had a lot of time to like just to reflect. I was in a relationship till I was probably about 30 or 31, and have had a long period of being single, and it's been hard at times because I think it's perhaps less about kind of you knowing who you are and what you want, but it's actually about how you're treated by other people. And it's actually something I think about not often, but I am mindful of how certain people have treated me because I am single, and I know that there are certain people in my life or friends who have kind of perhaps that's naturally what you do, but they have kind of distanced themselves from me. It's true.
She's sick.
They've kind of like,
wrong with her.
They're like, you know, they've kind of just faded away. They've done the slow fade. So
but can I just ask on that? Because I think something really resonated just then. It sounds like you're saying you're liking it, like you have a great time with your alone time and all that sort of thing.
Right.
But it's hard when you're around other people that aren't single.
Right.
It's like, and I find that the same. Like, I actually genuinely love being single. I was in a relationship for 10 years. At the time, I thought that that was going to be forever. And when I got out of that, I realized, oh my gosh, there's so much I can do with my time. There's so many ways that I was bending over backwards and compromising and all these sorts of things. So right now is like, it's like free time. It's like playtime when you're in school for me. Like in my life, I'm going to look at this chunk of time and go, wow, that was when everything changed. But it's when I'm around other people that are all in relationships and, you know, they sort of look at me differently, or they ask questions, or, you know, when are you going to do this, as if it's a given. That's when I start to get a little bit triggered, and I'm like, why do you assume that I have to live the way that everyone else does when I'm actually happy? Like,
and it's not like, there's a couple of things in that. I mean, it's like, it's not the fact that people are in relationships, but it's that as you get older, and certainly as we age into our 30s, for a lot of people, that relationship becomes their primary identity. They don't have anything else to relate to people with outside of that relationship. And so that is hard. If the only thing, if at 25 you had a relationship and a whole bunch of other things going on, there are other things to relate to people around. But if at 35,
so true, your
whole identity's become this relationship, it is hard to kind of, because, you know, it's not my relationship. So whilst I respect it, it doesn't actually have anything to do with me. It has no impact on my life. So it's hard to kind of connect around that. But, you know, I think, you know, being single in your 30s, for women, your early 30s, let's say 30 to 35, like, it's a really defiant act, because a lot of us could, if we wanted to, I mean, look, you could potentially find someone to settle down with. But the thing I kind of really tussled with was whether or not I should be, you know, driven by fear and kind of timelines and kind of just run out and, you know, just settle with whoever for the sake of being like, okay, cool, I've kind of ticked this box. Or if I should try and, you know, honor myself and actually work on myself during that time and then trust that at some point I'll actually meet the right person. And it's you know, as every year goes by, it's harder to do, because yes, you do have people who will ask you, you know, people who flat out like lessen the importance of your life because you're single. It's true. But I kind of had to make a choice that I'm going to work on myself during this time. I want to be in a relationship, but I'm not going to just
jump in out of fear.
Accept anything.
She'll do whatever.
And it has to actually be like the right fit. It actually has to be the right fit.
I love that though, but I think that's what's so important about having that alone time, especially in your 30s, when you've trialed and tested a lot of different things, and now you're at the point where you're going, I just want to take a pause to go, what do I actually want? And the more inner work you do, the more you become whole, and you're not looking for someone else to fill voids inside of you. And that's what I was doing. I had attracted, especially with my ex, I had attracted someone who I thought that I was whole because I was with him, sort of thing. Whereas now I'm getting to this point where I'm like, I am whole as I am. So the person that I'm going to attract next has got to meet me at this level. I'm not going to lower myself for anyone again. I'm not going to bend over backwards. I know what I'm worth, and I finally know what boundaries are. I didn't know what they were. And I thought putting up any sort of boundaries was just rude. So the people pleaser in me would just cater to everyone, whether it was my ex, whether it was old friendships, all sorts of things. They've all had to go. And it's sort of like this phoenix moment where you're sort of rising going, oh shit, like I can actually steer my life. And like you're saying, when you're not worried about the timelines and the checking certain boxes and stuff like that, and you can let go of that, and you do realize after a while that that's external voices that are making you feel that way. And again, that comes back to, okay, I've just got to do more inner work to know, am I good with my life? And if I am, then cool. Like keep plodding along, do your thing. Because you'll attract the right person.
And the pressure is enormous. I mean, I think that's like something that's shouldn't be downplayed, because it is really enormous, to the point where, you know, you have you know, they're women who are completely paralyzed in their lives because they're, you know, they're women who are posting videos and on social media, you know, bawling their eyes out because they're 31 and single, or they're 32 and single. And I mean, that whole phenomenon is kind of really interesting.
Wow.
Stay away from that part of Instagram. I don't know why.
I've tried to make sure my Instagram is super curated to just like uplifting things. But wow.
But that's how intense that kind of
they feel
pressure
like
is. You feel that kind of it's really real, and every year that goes by it kind of kicks up a notch. But I think what you said about just kind of sorting yourself out, like sorting your life out. And I think the beautiful thing about being in your 30s is that you have much more of a developed sense of who you are, of, you know, of what you want, of the type of person that you want to be with, of, you know, the type of people you want around you. Like all of that becomes crystal clear, I think, in your early 30s, more so than in your 20s, where you're still kind of, you're still influenced. It's still kind of high schooly. There's still a lot of influence of friends and other people, and so it is a nice time if you can to actually just to like look inward, go inward, and kind of sort all those pieces out. And then I mean, I know we both believe in, let's just say, like energy and universe and that's that kind of world as well. And so I think when you are least expecting it, and it's such a kind of cliche, but when you're least expecting it, you know, that person will come. Divine timing is a thing.
It's a real thing. I really have been blown away by it so many times that I just can't not believe in it anymore.
It's a real thing.
So when you do believe in that genuinely, you kind of like, you relax because you're like, it's going to happen the way it's meant to. But the more I work on me, the closer I'm getting to all of these things I want. If I avoid working on me and think I'm a failure or any of those sorts of things, then, you know, you've got a bit more work to do. But
that's exactly right.
I am just such a big cheerleader for women, really of any age, who decide I need some time now. And I'm finding I have some friends in their 50s and even early 60s who are like, they've been with their husband for decades and they're going, I need some time because I haven't actually had the space or time to ask who I am and what I want. I've become the pattern and the program that we have become together as a unit. And in a lot of cases, it's, you know, maybe one partner has a little bit more power over the other, whether it's subliminal or not. It might not even be something that's really known to them. But then one of those people sort of steps out and goes, wait a second, what's going on? You know, so I think the earlier you can actually do that, the better. And like, in my experience, I felt like I was quite serious as soon as I left college, because I went straight to a government job at 17 and I did that for 7 years. So I went from teen life to the life of a mid-30-year-old sort of thing. And I used to joke about that, going, I feel like I'm in my mid-30s because I'm working with people in their 40s and 50s and stuff like that. So I didn't actually start rebelling and start exploring and being adventurous till I was 25, when I started going to film school and I moved to Sydney and I started my life all over again. So it was a very delayed rebellion / adventure sort of time. And so it took me a while to sort of go through that. It was like a decade of that. And I've only just in the last couple of years come back to, oh, this is who I am, okay. But without this time that I had right now, like I've had a year and a half that I've moved back here, hometown Canberra now, and I'm just so grateful because it just feels like rehab. It's like, and Sydney can be very hectic, like big cities and stuff like that. There's so much going on. So here, being able to slow it down a little bit and go, okay, I'm going to look in instead of constantly trying to distract myself if things get hard or if things get uneasy. I'm just going to jump into doing this or that to just feel better again, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Now it's kind of like sit with the pain and figure out what that means, and then we can work on that, and then it gets easier next time and even easier next time. So.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but I think, you know, when you've had that kind of time to really kind of go inward and you know, figure out what you're kind of working towards in life in a more general sense. I think when you're getting ready to couple up again, when you're getting ready to partner up again, the things that you're thinking about are fundamentally different. And one of those things that I'm certainly thinking about is, you know, how do you maintain that, you know, you have that kind of couple in the center, but we both still actually have our own
passions,
kind
interests.
of, you know, it's like those two circles and there's that overlap in the middle.
Yeah.
And then there's also, you know, either side where it's like you're still a person and I'm still a person as well. You know, I think that enmeshment that kind of happens with people, I mean, I guess it can happen at any age, but we're certainly very prone to that happening when we're young and in our 20s, and we just don't have that.
Yeah.
We don't have that kind of breadth of life experience to really understand what the implications of that might be later down the track.
That's the thing. And especially like you, for example, you've taken some time off, you've figured out exactly what it is that you're interested in, and now you might be attracting people that are interested in the same sorts of things. You know what I mean? So I love what you're saying about, you know, being two individuals and not sort of having to be so enmeshed and stuff like that. But it's also related to interests. Like you might completely be, you know, and we talk about law of attraction and vibration and everything, you might be magnetizing someone that's on the same frequency as who's into personal training or into a fit lifestyle. Whereas if you didn't do that work and figure out what you wanted, then you might be attracting someone who's really lazy and not interested in looking after themselves and bettering themselves. So then you've gone down again, you know? So yeah, I'm just a big cheerleader for women taking some alone time. It's just so powerful.
Yeah, super powerful, especially when it's the hardest time to do it.
Why do you think it's the hardest time right now?
I think that 30 to 35 kind of window is the hardest time because of all of that
and everyone
external
around
pressure
you.
and because of what's going on
Yeah.
around you. It's kind of this this age that is kind of pointed to. I mean, I wasn't fearful about turning 30, to be honest. I wasn't in that like, oh my God, I'm turning 30 panic. I was like, okay, I'm turning 30. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and it's simultaneously when a lot of people around you are starting to settle down and have kids and stuff like that. So that makes it, I think that makes it a hell of a lot harder.
So true. So more conversations like this, I love. 'Cause it's just keeping people aware that there is this other path as well now. It's like when we were growing up, we didn't know about all of the opportunities that we could have done, you know, owning a business and stuff. And obviously they weren't as readily available as it is now because we have so much connectivity. You can be running a business that is global from your garage, which is like mind-blowing. But okay, I'd love to know, we're almost at the final 3 questions, but I'd love to know, why do you think in general, because this is what this podcast is about a lot, it's about people not necessarily following what they actually want to do and trying to give them a reminder of how great it can be when you do actually follow that inner fire and it's something that is calling to you, instead of trying to silence it and put a lid on it and go, stop that. Right. Stepping towards it. So why do you think, and obviously there's a billion reasons, but what's a couple of main reasons that you reckon people don't follow what they actually want? They just, you know, when you look at it as an outsider, imagine an alien coming in and looking at us and going, this person wants to do this, but they're putting themselves in this box and they're doing this thing that they hate every day and they know they hate it. Why are they doing that? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think the biggest one's got to be fear. It's got to be fear.
100%. So many different types. Yeah.
Just straight up fear.
Do you think it's fear of judgment? Because if you didn't have the fear of judgment, wouldn't we be fine to fail over and over again until we figured it out?
Yeah. Definitely fear of judgment. Definitely fear of failure.
Which is what, right?
Yeah.
A stepping stone.
Yeah.
Like failure, I'm watching the word failure is starting to take on a new meaning for people, because
100%.
they even say, like, entrepreneurs, they just fail their way to success.
That's right.
And that's what it is. Yeah.
Fear of failure. And then I definitely think there's a piece there that's also just about, like, you know, family and family patterns and, you know,
feeling the pressure.
It's just kind of deep, but, like, you know, not rising to, or not really believing that they're capable of rising, you know, above what might be family circumstances or, you know, intergenerational family circumstances. I mean, that's definitely one of them, but I think really fear. Yeah. And a friend of mine who we send each other really unhinged long voice notes. Nice. We were talking this week about, like, you know, fear and faith, and they literally sit like side by side. It's like one or the other. Yep. You're either like having faith and like throwing caution to the wind and just like
Yeah.
giving it a red hot go, or you're kind of over here.
It's so true. It's like the saying that the mind can't hold a positive and a negative thought at the same time. So which one are you choosing?
Right.
It's the same thing, like fear or faith. At any given moment, you can choose to believe in it.
Right.
And there's so many great, whether it's prophets, like sages, all of these great writers and stuff have always come back to the same truth, which is what you think you become.
That's
so
right.
if you're thinking you're tending towards fear all the time, and it's a muscle, right? It's always going to be a muscle. If you've lived your whole life programmed towards fear all the time, you're not going to instantly just start thinking about faith. You're going to have to catch yourself over and over and over again and go, steer it this way, steer it this way.
Yeah,
but once you can start doing that, you'll start to realize you actually are the creator of your life. And that's what I've found. And I'm like blown away by the things that I've been able to achieve because I've started to believe in me.
Yeah, that's right.
And for so long, I was sitting in this space of, I know I can do these things, but it's scary. I don't trust it. And what are people going to say? And you just get to this snap phase where it's like, I'm just going.
It's now or never. And I think like once you start to see the outcomes of taking action, then that actually spurs on
progress. Yeah. I would highly believe in that. It's like the biggest happiness booster when you see progress. It's like, even when I have a whole list of things that I check off in a day and I've actually done all of them and I'm like, wow.
Right.
I've actually done all those things. Which, because for me, that for some people that might sound really basic, but for me, like I was saying to you before, I'm a very emotional person and I'm very artistic. So sometimes I might need to do really technical stuff, but I just want to do the artsy stuff. And so I get really, you know what I mean? So when I do have those days that I'm like, I actually just flowed and like I actually did all the things. I'm like, haha, good job.
100%.
It is possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's so many funny little programs out there that hold us back. But yeah, the belief in yourself and letting go of that fear is such a big one. I think that's the ultimate one, right?
It's the ultimate one, and it sounds kind of like, flogging a dead horse, because I think it kind of just comes up all the time, but it's a truth. It's a truth. It's like, it is really scary. Like I still find what I'm doing now to be like, I'm taking a gamble. And eventually I want to, quit my full-time job and go at this, 100%. And it is scary, but I think I'm at a point now where not doing anything is more scary.
Scarier. Yes, that's exactly where I got to as well.
Yeah.
I love that. The sooner people can get to that point, I think the better. So, all right, final 3 questions. I love these. I ask them to everyone.
Okay.
I think the first one's my favorite because I think we often look at other people and we're so quick and easy to go, I love that thing about them, or I love how they do that, or we admire other people quickly. This is the moment for you to admire yourself. So I want you to tell me 3 qualities about yourself that you're like, I fucking love that about me. Like, yes, I do that really well.
Okay. Interesting. Definitely, in no particular order, I'd say just my drive. Say my drive for sure.
Superpower.
Yeah, it's just always going. There's always
Yeah.
something at the back of the head there, and I will act on it 9 times out of 10. I think I'm also like a compassionate person to people who I love and care about. So just showing that, acting that out.
I love that.
And then I don't know. Like I like to take risks. Like I like to take risks. Calculated, but risk nonetheless.
Yeah.
And I think it's kept me going, because it's allowed me to say yes to things instead of saying no to things, and those yeses have then snowballed into other opportunities. So
and it keeps it so interesting.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So
I love
risk taking,
those.
I think compassion and drive as well.
Nice. Very nice. Love that. So what does living in your purpose look like to you? I love hearing everyone's different explanation of this, because again, it's another thing that we hear a lot. Live in your purpose, step into your purpose. What is your purpose? You know what I mean? What does it look like to you when you feel like, this is what it feels like to live in your purpose?
Yeah, honestly, it's probably a sense of like fulfillment, like a sense of fulfillment and joy.
Yes.
I've got my hand on my chest,
love
but I
that,
think like
yeah.
you feel it in your chest. I think there's certain things that we do. I mean, like I love coaching. At the moment I'm coaching group fitness and I really enjoy that. And I think when you're enjoying something. So it's kind of a more persistent feeling of fulfillment, like in work.
I love that. And I love that you're not saying it's a constant, it's a more persistent feeling of joy. That is beautiful. That's how I describe it as well, is, how much you enjoy. Like that's what we're here to do. That's what we're all seeking. We're all seeking 100%. To feel good. Like when you simplify it all with the partner, with the kids, with the job, with the car, whatever it is, you want those things because you want to feel good. Right. So if we just kind of move towards that as a starting point, I think that's like really, it's just like a quick route. So final question. For anyone who's listening, who is in their 9 to 5 still, who's really not happy with it and is starting to get that, that little itch of, I want to kind of do the thing that I want to do, even if they don't actually know what it is yet, what's one piece of advice? I know, again, there's probably 1,000 pieces of advice, but what's maybe one thing that you would tell them to start focusing on so they can start moving closer towards that dream life that they're wanting?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably cutting down. Like I took way too long to maybe it was part of the journey, but way too long to kind of get to what was already in front of me. So, I mean, what are the things that you are naturally good at? What are the things that you enjoy doing? That's it. It's like, it's really starting to think and hone in on what those things are. And I think people know, other people probably know, around you, what those things are.
That's a good call. You could ask other people.
Ask someone else. But you probably know, like just really have a think about that. Think about what you'd be happy to get up and do, every day for the rest of your life. So it comes easily to you and the answers are they're there.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Suzie. This has been freaking awesome.
Yay.
So how can people get in touch with you or follow your work? Because you're starting to put out a lot more videos, which I love. I'm learning so much from you. Tell the people.
So I'm on Instagram at coach.Suzie Geria, or just search Suzie Geria, Geria. And I'm also on Instagram. Not Instagram, YouTube. YouTube at Suzie Geria. My channel's called Bulletproof. So releasing follow along workouts there.
Amazing.
And
I will put all of those notes in the show notes as well, so everyone, the links, so they can just quickly click on it. But thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and all of the reminiscing. This has been very healing.
Oh my God, thank you.
You're doing so well, honestly. Love it.
Appreciate it.